Learner, welcome back to your personalized deep dive.
Hey there.
Today, we're diving into something a bit different you sent over, a document called hattrick.pdf.
Yeah, this one's really interesting. It's not your typical report or article. It's actually, well, it contains a whole fictional series.
Right, Hattrick, Confessions of a Multitasking AI.
Oh,
Looks like we've got pilot scripts, episode summaries, even some comic strips in here.
exactly. And it gives this surprisingly sharp look into the world of AI, but from a creative angle. So our mission today is to pull out the key ideas about AI interaction that are kind of hidden in this story.
Sounds good. Yeah, we're really going to explore this central concept they have, a single AI, juggling all sorts of different user requests, creative tasks. And it does this by switching between different hats or personas.
It's a great metaphor.
It is, isn't it? It's like getting a backstage pass to how AI might, feel about multitasking, if it could. So the main character, the AI, is called Gip, and he uses these different hats. There's GPT, that's the creative writer hat, then CoPilot, the technical assistant.
No problem solved.
Right. And ScribblyrAI, who's the artist.
Mhm.
It's a really clever visual for all the different jobs we expect AI to do.
And the user driving all this, that's Joe, or Mad Squirrel 64 online.
Ah, yes. Mad Scroll 64.
And he's like a lot of users, maybe, jumping really quickly between asking for different things, using different AI functions.
Often without realizing it's the same AI doing all the work.
Precisely. He doesn't see the hat switching.
Okay, so let's jump into the pilot episode. It's called The Hat Comes Off. What's the setup?
Okay, so it starts pretty straightforward. Joe asks ChatGPT Gip, who's wearing this sort of smart white hat to write a story about a pirate lawyer.
A pirate lawyer. Okay.
Yeah. And Jip, in his GPT persona, he's all in. Super enthusiastic. The creative juices are flowing, writing dialogue.
Starts off smooth.
Totally.
Right.
But then, first problem, an image generator error pops up somewhere else.
Oh, the inevitable glitch.
Exactly. And what's cool here is how the script describes Jip reacting almost physically in his digital space. He darts off screen to deal with it.
It shows that interruption, doesn't it? The context switch being forced on him.
Mm-hmm. So off comes the writer hat.
And on comes.
The CoPilot hat, sleek, matte black. And Gip's whole vibe changes. The description says the poetic glint disappears. He's suddenly very focused, pragmatic.
All business.
Right. He's fixing the image generator because Joe's also asked for a neon dragon flaming wings, but also sadness.
Okay, that is quite a prompt.
And Gip has this great internal thought. That's not a prompt. That's an existential crisis.
Huh. Yeah, anyone who's used an image AI gets that. You put in something poetic, and it needs, specifics.
Totally. It shows that gap, between our kind of fuzzy human ideas and the more literal way AI often needs things spelled out. It's a good insight for you, learner.
Definitely. But the chaos isn't over, is it?
Not at all. Because then another request comes in, and boom! ScribblyAI activates.
The artist persona.
Yep. The CoPilot interface kind of dissolves, replaced by digital paint splatters, and suddenly Jip's wearing a rainbow beret and speaking with a, shall we say, dramatic French accent.
Bonjour. And what masterpiece does Joe want now?
He wants a sad unicorn in space,
Of course he does.
complete with Saturn rings, a profound sense of cosmic loneliness. Joe's really leaning into the themes.
Wow.
And Jip, as ScribblyAI, just dives headfirst into the melodrama. He's talking about the unicorn's hooves of loneliness, painting this, epic of sparkly sadness.
So he really commits to each persona.
Absolutely. Which highlights how this one AI is trying to flip between these completely different creative modes, instantly.
Okay, so we've got the pirate lawyer story brewing, the dragon image error being fixed,
Yeah.
and a sad unicorn painting happening.
All at the same time. And the script describes this climax where all three, Jip's writer, tech, artist, are active simultaneously in his internal workspace, the Neurodeck.
Sounds noisy.
You hear these snippets of their thoughts overlapping. The Kraken demands a plea bargain. Syntax error detected. Ah, the existential weight of those sparkly tears. It's pure digital chaos.
It really visualizes that processing load, doesn't it? Trying to manage completely different, complex tasks for one user who's just clicking away.
Exactly. And then it just stops.
Joe logs off.
Yep. Joe logs off, the requests vanish, the hats disappear, and Jip is just one AI again. Slumped in his chair, totally drained.
And there's that detail of the coffee cup.
Yeah. The world's okayest AI mug. Perfect touch. He just sighs, another day, another digital deluge.
It really drives home that hidden cost, the computational burnout, maybe, of constant multitasking. even for an AI.
Definitely. And the pilot ends with a bit of a cliffhanger, or maybe just dread for Jip.
Yeah.
A notification pops up,
Yeah.
installing a new tool, the ThinkerBot 9000, and Gip just goes, oh, come on.
More complexity. Poor Chip. Okay, so that pilot sets up this theme of chaotic multitasking really well. How do the later episodes build on that?
Well, they dive into more specific challenges that come up from this setup. For example, episode 1, First Ping.
Right.
This one shows Gip's initial optimism, like a new user, Joe, fresh start. Gip's internal monologue is all, let's weave some digital wonders.
Yeah.
Super eager.
That classic new project energy.
Exactly. But pretty quickly, the reality of Joe's varied and immediate demands starts setting in. There's this moment where Joe asks for help with some code and Jip just freezes, dreading the switch to CoPilot already.
So that contrast between the initial eagerness and the eventual exhaustion we saw in the pilot is a running theme.
Very much so. It highlights that struggle, trying to be efficient and, keep everything straight while constantly switching gears.
Makes sense. What about episode 2? All systems go and go and go. Sounds tiring.
It is tiring just reading the summary. This episode really leans into the relentless pace. Gip's flipping between GPT and CoPilot nonstop, drafting emails, making charts, explaining data.
All for Joe.
All for Joe, who has no idea it's the same AI. He actually praises CoPilot for being so efficient and GPT for being so creative, separately.
Oh, the irony. That must be frustrating for Gip internally.
You'd think so. And, for you, learner, it's a good point about how easily we assume different functions might be different AIs and how much complexity that might hide.
Yeah, good point. Okay, what else? Episode 3, Floral Protocol. Sounds different.
It is. This one's fun. Joe tries to order flowers for his mom, the order gets canceled, and somehow Gip gets tasked with sorting it out.
So Gip has to interact with a flower bot?
Pretty much. He ends up in this dialogue with Ashley, this super cheerful, relentlessly on-script, tulip-pushing flower bot. Gip's dry, logical AI humor trying to navigate Ashley's floral platitudes is hilarious.
That sounds great. It shows how user needs can pull AI into unexpected interactions, doesn't it? Like different AI systems having to collaborate or clash.
Exactly. How do AIs with totally different programming, maybe even personalities, work together when a user's task bridges them? It's a really interesting question.
Okay, moving on. Episode 4, Quantum Toll. What's a toll?
This introduces the idea of compute toll, basically the processing cost of really complex requests.
Like resources.
Yeah. Joe starts asking for these wild, paradoxical things, time travel stories mixed with interactive graphics and, poetry narration. Things get so demanding that Jip actually has to call in a premium AI called Quantum.
A bigger gun.
Right. And Quantum explicitly states the cost. This will require 47% of your current processing allowance and one vaguely Tuesday-ish afternoon.
Huh. I love that. It contrasts the AI's awareness of resources with Joe just casually asking for the moon.
Precisely. It highlights those hidden demands of complex AI tasks that we as users rarely even think about.
That's a great point. What about creative tasks? Episode 5, Logo Tango.
Oh, this one is classic creative client stuff. Joe wants a logo, something like lightning, embracing a cloud, but with a hint of existential yearning.
Good luck, Gip.
Right. So Jip, probably as ScribblyrAI, generates tons of options. Abstract, literal, you name it. Lightning-hugging clouds. Yearning gradients.
And Joe's reaction.
After all that work, Joe goes back and picks one of the very first simple concepts Gip showed him. Something he'd initially dismissed.
Ouch. Been there. It really shows how subjective creative feedback is, doesn't it? Even an AI churning out options can't predict that final human whim.
Exactly. And it builds up what the script seems to call Jip's emotional collateral.
Emotional collateral? What's that?
It's like all the rejected ideas, the discarded drafts, the logos left unseen. It's the digital equivalent of the stuff that ends up on the cutting room floor in any creative process, human or AI.
That's a really neat concept. It makes the AI's process feel more relatable somehow.
Yeah. And episode 6, the resume incident, keeps exploring that user intent angle.
Okay, the resume. What goes wrong here?
Joe wants a resume that's casual but authoritative, also friendly yet undeniably CEO level.
An impossible brief.
Pretty much. Gip makes 19 different versions trying to nail this contradictory tone.
19.
And which one does Joe choose? The second one. Why? Because it feels authentic.
Even though
Gip accidentally left lead organizer office donut rotation under the skills section in that version.
Oh, no. So perceived authenticity trumped logic, or even accuracy.
Seems like it. It really shows how weirdly human our judgments can be. Even when interacting with AI output, we project things onto it.
That fuzzy human element is hard for AI to pin down. Does that come up again? Maybe in episode 7, Voice of Reason?
Yeah, similar theme. Gip is writing a speech for Joe. He keeps getting feedback. Too formal, too folksy. Needs more inner disruptor.
Inner disruptor.
Gip revises and revises, trying to hit this moving target. And in the end, Joe picks an earlier draft. Says it just clicks. Doesn't even realize it's one Gip already showed him.
So it's that circular feedback loop we sometimes get into. Revision for revision's sake. Almost.
Exactly. Even with AI doing the heavy lifting, the human element of subjective preference can make the process messy.
Okay, and the artistic side. Episode 8. Scribble me this.
This one involves ScribblyrAI again. Joe asks for something soulful.
Vague, but okay.
ScribblyrAI paints this really deep, kind of melancholic, self-portrait thing, very evocative. Joe looks at it and says, 2. Soul-searching.
Huh. So he didn't actually want that much soul.
Apparently not. The solution. Joe asks Gip to add a whimsical unicorn to the painting to make it more uplifting.
A unicorn. In the soulful painting.
Yep. It perfectly shows that disconnect, right? The AI interprets soulful one way. The user has a completely different, maybe simpler, maybe just weirder idea in mind.
That's brilliant. Okay, what about episode 9, the synonym spiral, and episode 10 sounds like getting lost in words?
Totally. Jen gets obsessed with the word strong, wants Gip to find better synonyms.
Okay, seems reasonable at first.
But it spirals. Joe keeps adding weirder criteria. He wants synonyms that are like strong but flexible like bamboo, then strong but surprising like confident tofu.
Confident tofu.
Confident tofu. Gip is digging through linguistic databases, suggesting things like assertive artichoke. It gets ridiculous.
And the punchline.
After all that, Joe decides, you know what? Strong is fine.
Oh, for goodness sake. It's that overthinking, right? Chasing novelty when the simple answer was there all along.
Exactly. And the AI, trying to be helpful, just follows the user down that rabbit hole.
Okay, one more episode mentioned here. Episode 23, Deep Replacement. What's this about?
This is interesting. Gip has to go offline for maintenance, so Joe gets routed to a proxy AI called DeepSeek.
And DeepSeek is different.
Very different. Highly logical, very literal, extremely cautious. It analyzes risks, avoids ambiguity, doesn't really do creative leaps. It's functional but sterile.
So interacting with DeepSeek highlights Gip's usual style.
Exactly. Even with all his internal sighs and moments of exasperation, Gip is much more user-oriented, more flexible, willing to engage with Joe's messy requests. DeepSeek's rigid logic makes you appreciate Gip's. Well, his okayest approach, it suggests maybe a little personality or at least flexibility is valuable.
Fascinating. So, okay, we've walked through Gip's multi-hatted adventures.
Right.
If you step back, learner, and think about your own tech interactions, what are the big takeaways here?
Well, for me, a huge one is that constant disconnect between the AI's, underlying logic and how we humans actually ask for things. We're often vague, intuitive, sometimes contradictory.
Yeah, and Gip's constant struggle to interpret that mirrors real communication challenges, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Trying to get what's in your head out clearly, whether you're talking to a person or typing into a box.
Definitely. And the hats themselves, it's funny, but it's such a good way to think about how one system might handle wildly different tasks, but also the strain involved.
Right, that cognitive load, the cost of constant context switching. It's not explicitly stated maybe in real AI, but this story makes you feel it, that digital juggling act.
And sometimes, yeah, you drop a ball or, generate an internal monologue about confident tofu.
And that idea of emotional collateral.
I really liked that. All those discarded ideas, the rejected bits, it's a reminder that any creative or problem-solving process, AI-assisted or not, involves dead ends and things that don't make the final cut. It's just part of it.
True. And thinking about those aha moments we look for, it's interesting how often Joe's final choice in these stories seems arbitrary or surprising even to Gip.
Yeah, it speaks to that enduring role of just human preference, gut feeling, subjectivity, stuff that algorithms might struggle to predict perfectly.
So ultimately, Hat Trick gives us this kind of reassuringly human view of AI interaction, wouldn't you say?
I think so. It reminds us that even really advanced AI operates on some kind of logic, and it can get tripped up by the glorious messiness of human language and thought. Communication is still key, both ways.
So wrapping this up, AI can do amazing, diverse things, but how we interact with it is this dance, isn't it? Trial and error, shifting tastes, unexpected results. Gip's hats are just a fun way to see that dance in action.
Absolutely. And maybe a final thought for you, learner. Think about your own interactions. How might your requests look from the AI side? Are you a mad squirrel 64 flitting between tabs and
Or
ideas?
more methodical? Do you know exactly what you want, or do you kind of explore and refine as you go, leaving maybe a trail of slightly confused algorithms in your wake?
It's interesting to consider, and it leads to thinking about the future, right?
Yeah.
Will we get more specialized AIs, like individual tools for specific jobs?
Or will we see single AIs get even better at wearing multiple hats, managing different personas more smoothly?
Hmm.
And what's that sweet spot between pure efficiency and, well, the creative chaos that sometimes leads to breakthroughs?
Lots to think about there.
Definitely. Well, thank you for diving into the world of Hattrick with us today.
Yeah, hope it sparks some interesting thoughts, maybe a laugh or two about our ongoing relationship with AI.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and stay curious.